My family and I moved here in 1983.
Okay.
We had lived in Moraga before, but I grew up in Oakland, and my dad's business was in Walnut Creek, so I was real familiar with the area.
Okay, very good. Now, you were on the City Council in 1991?
Correct, from 1991 to 1999.
Okay, and then you became mayor in 95?
I was mayor the first time in 94,
Okay.
November of 93 to 94, and again in 1998 to 99.
So what motivated you to run for City Council?
I had been very active in the Chamber of Commerce with our business in town, and we had moved here, and I thought that downtown was pretty shabby. And we had a lot of empty storefronts, empty lots. We had developers that came, said they were doing things, and then left. And it wasn't the nice place that I really wanted for my family. So I got really involved in the chamber, and some folks in the chamber kind of, after I'd been president of the chamber, said, you know, you really should run for the council. And so I did.
And then you became mayor.
I did,
How did
and
that feel?
that was actually a lot of fun. My goals were to work with the downtown and to see a lot of the new things that are here now that are beginning to get old. We had a master landscaping plan, and we implemented that and planted a lot of trees, have new street lights. In the past, we'd had power lines running down the middle of the island of Mount Diablo in Cobra headlights. And so it looks a lot different now. And when the city did some improvements, the businesses started to improve. I was a student in Bob Fisher's criminology classes, and he talked to the class about what he was doing and about the incorporation of Lafayette. And I knew about the area, and my parents' business was out in this area. And so I thought, oh, and also I was a poli-sci major. So I thought, oh, this would be really fun to work on this election. So I sent some letters out and did some minor things to help out in the election. And lo and behold, the city incorporated in '68, had enough votes, and he was on the first council. Actually, I think he got the most votes, but because he was so young, there was a decision that he wouldn't be the mayor the first year. Kind of an ironic twist of fate that I ended up here in Lafayette and ran for council and became mayor many, many years later.
Yeah. But tell us a little more detail about what it was like working on the incorporation, because it had gone to the vote twice before, it was turned down.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point when you joined the effort, what were the big issues?
I think the biggest issue was land use. There had been the county was developing a lot in the late 60s. And people were seeing a lot more development come in, and they wanted to have control, and they didn't want to have to go to Martinez every time there was a hearing, and they really wanted to limit the growth of Lafayette. People had lived here, had a vision. They loved the semi-rural atmosphere. I think kind of the straw that broke the camel's back was a heliport that was coming in, that is where Temple Isaiah is now, at the top of Arisa Road. I don't know if it actually ever was built, but there was an application, and that got folks motivated to have local control. Well, when BART came in, and it really divided the town right down the middle. And there was a lot of discussion about where the station should be. And originally BART had planned the station to be in where Pleasant Hill Road is now. But there was a lot of folks that thought that if it was going to divide our town, we should have it more convenient in the downtown. And so it was then eventually decided that it would be there. But there are people that are still, older folks here, still resentful of BART taking their property and had large parcels of land. This used to be kind of horse country, and a lot of people had horses, and they had really several acre lots. And Bart came and divided the town in two. The county was always pro-growth. And they thought that this was a great area for homes because they really looked at the rest of the county to be more industrial, and that's where the refineries are, and they thought that more manufacturing and more industry would be in those areas, and these would be the places where people would live. They didn't really ask the folks that live here what they wanted. But that was the master plan that they were working on, and that's not what the folks of Lafayette wanted at all. They really liked the semi-rural, and at that time it was even more rural.
Whole thing. Let me ask you, do you recall the influence that Frank Lloyd Wright and some of his teachings had?
Yes, they had their proteges did some studies for the downtown in Lafayette and really developed a master plan for our downtown, and with the meeting islands that we have now, and lighting, and how the streets should be divided up. And the cities in some place still has those plans.
And those are proteges of Frank Lloyd Wright?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, because Don told us that there was a manual that they had, so maybe that's...
Yes. And, cities have to have master plans. And this was sort of the beginnings of that. The city never, at that time, had the money to implement that. And more than that, they just had it... After we were incorporated with the promise of limited government. And those kinds of plans would take a real committed full city staff to be able to do. I think we've done a good job. And I say that by having been active in the League of California Cities when I was on the city council, and see how other cities have made promises and not kept them. When you drive through Lafayette, we've gotten the nickname Leafy Lafayette, and it's really true. We've really been able to preserve a lot of what we've had since the 60s. You look at population growth, it's still modest. And in fact, we have schools that have closed since some of those days. Of course, part of it is back in those days, they felt schools, elementary schools should be smaller and fewer students, but we've closed a middle school and 2 or 3 elementary schools. So our population has not grown that much. We're lucky in that we have a community where we have a lot of community volunteers. So when there are community projects, you're not the only one out there. Everyone else steps up to the plate. Also, I'll give you an example. When I was finishing my second term on the council at the end of 8 years, I had to make a decision. Was I going to run again? And what I really wanted to see in Lafayette was a new library. And so I chose not to run again to be able to have the time to focus on working to build a new library. Now, along came at least 200 other people to help do that. But, we started with a group in my living room, and yes, it took 10 years of almost full-time work. And we were able to build a wonderful new library in Lafayette. But you can't do that. No one can do that by themselves. It has to take a lot of people over many years, people who are committed, not just city staff, of which our city staff was extraordinarily supportive, working on their own time too, trying to meet deadlines. We got a state grant, and I know that our city planner spent the whole Christmas break writing that to get it done. But volunteers, hours and hours, lending their expertise from their professional backgrounds, as well as 25% of our community donated money to the new library, which is almost unheard of in doing capital campaigns. So, it must be in the water.
Must be in the water.
But I think I'm proud of the downtown, the way it looks now. I think that it's been a long process, but we really have a really nice cooperation between the Chamber of Commerce and the businesses and the city and the police department. Everybody works as a unit. It's really nice. And it didn't used to be like that. People didn't understand what their needs were. And a lot of people thought, oh, people have a business here just to make money, without realizing that most of the people that have businesses actually live in town and really care about Lafayette. So I think that for the most part, everyone can work together. And I think up until now, I can't talk about the future, but we've been extraordinarily lucky that we've had councils that work together. That doesn't mean that everybody agrees on everything, but we really do work to make things happen in Lafayette for the benefit of everyone. I think the legacy is creating a community, and that word in the very sense of how it's defined, meaning that people come together and work together to make everyone's place where they live to be the best that it can be. And you look at the number of committees and commissions that we have, all volunteers. Council is not paid. People are not doing this for the money, which is almost unheard of in the state of California.